Una semana exacta, me enteré de que Savages, ese estridente cuarteto de mujeres que me hipnotizó con el agraciado podcast lanzado por Esteban Castro en el 2012 titulado Futuro Salvaje, volverían a la capital mexicana un 9 de abril, después de un par de correos, días de ansia e incertidumbre. Al fin llegó la respuesta que parecía irreal. Te podremos conceder una entrevista con Gemma, lapidaba el mensaje electrónico. Andy Inglis, tour manager, con unos Ray-Ban aviador, corte impecable rockabilly y barba cerrada, me recibe con un sólido apretón de manos. Andy llama a Gemma, quien sale enfundada en una vestimenta negra de pies a cabeza. Nos conducen a una sala lounge. Mis manos tiemblan, y el nerviosismo es evidente. Para cortar la tensión, menciono que es justo gracias a que los editores de esta sección escribieron de Savages en el 2012 es que pude conocerlas. Gemma Thompson se quedó asombrada de que hace más de 2 años supiéramos de ellas de este lado del planeta. Y ahí comenzó nuestra exclusiva.
It must have been when Jen replied, when Jen sent me an email, and I replied to her email about working together on Savages. And it was when I realised, read the lyrics she was writing that she thought would work perfectly for this. Until then, the sound was just an idea, just a theory, you know. But once we saw the lyrics and had in mind the sound, it just kind of worked together. And then it all kind of just made itself because the words were there with the sounds that we had in mind. And it's very simple. But that was it, really. And then we found Faye and began rehearsing solidly for 3 months. It just came together. I met Jen through John and Jen. I was playing guitar with John and Jen. And Aisha, the bassist, and myself had been playing for about 3 or 4 years previous. Put everything we learned into this band and make it very performance based, and make the song minimal, just use what's necessary and use repetition. And so then with Jen and those lyrics, it just all came together really. It made sense. It's never been one direct way, really. It's always been very different. It's hard to, you do it and you don't really dissect that side of it in a way. But it starts either with like an idea or a theme behind a song, or the word that we think about and how to approach the instruments to create that sound from the word of the song, or by accident. We do instrumental rehearsals sometimes and things, you know, record. We always recorded all our rehearsals and kind of gone back and it's just a process. The first one that really struck me though was Victor Bargeld from Einstein and Band, who in that band as a whole, where they approach instruments, or they also create instruments, or they play the building, or but they see the instrument in their hand or what they create as something to make a sound from. It's about how they physically use it to create a sound. So you'll see how he approaches the guitar. He'll use it just for one little sound, or they'll use something different on it that you wouldn't have thought about. Or it's not about technical approach to the instrument or about historically how everyone else has played it, but it's about how you interact with it and get a sound from it. And of course, another one would be Roland S. Howard. So it's been a kind of a big influence as an artist overall, and about how you approach what you created and as a musician. Yeah. So I suppose it would be the film Warfare, a French film. So Lawrence of Arabia has always been a favourite film of mine. There's a Japanese film called Woman of the Dunes. It's based on a novel by Kobo Abe, a Japanese writer, who was really into searching for a kind of meaning of self in the characters that he wrote about. I've read a lot of his books, The Boxman, The Face of Another, but The Women of the Dunes is really beautiful book, beautiful film with a beautiful soundtrack, really jarring, dissonant violin soundtrack about basically an entomologist. It was created in, I think it was 1966 or 1965, this film was made. An entomologist or insect hunter went into the deserts looking for insects, and he basically falls into a pit. It's basically the myth of Sisyphus, really. He falls into a pit with a woman that lives in a hut in this pit of sand, and the only way she can survive is by every day digging out a certain amount of sand that falls into the pit. So her day-to-day life, to stay alive, is to dig sand. So he kind of joins her and fights to get out of this existence because he doesn't want to be this existence. But so he attempts to escape, but in the end he has to accept his fate and falls in love with the woman because he has to, because he has no other choice. And it's a very beautiful film. Yeah, it's probably one of my favourite films of the year. An idea from that, yeah, but as a whole idea, basically. But Lord of the Flies is a good kind of influence to say about that. It's an idea of a savagery which is within everybody, and no matter what time, genre, era you're in, really, no matter how advanced technology is or how far it's taken or what work it's taken off your hands, there's still that element of savagery and primitivity and primal idea within everybody. And rock and roll, or this power of music, can cut into that. You know, you have a way of freedom of using that. Yeah, this idea of using this energy in a positive way and trying to find that energy that would have been a very primitive thing, or it's again a character trying to understand themselves, which is what art is always about. You know, so it just seemed a fitting name to use.